Oh boy. Usually I record these podcasts on a Monday morning. Um, it just works easier. The games have just happened on the weekend. Uh, I can talk about what's coming up for the week, any news on Monday morning if it comes out, whatnot. Um, but this week I just felt like Tuesday was right. Granted, I was feeling a little bit ill yesterday, had some stuff to do, whatever. Um, but no, I woke up today and I waited a bit, and then some news came out at uh 12:45. It is now Tuesday, the 3rd of September at 1:55. Some news came out that Sam Docherty will be playing on Saturday. And I think that's the reason I waited, because I had to talk about it today. So we're here. Welcome to episode 4 of Footy and Stuff. Uh let's jump into it. Let's just jump straight into it. So this pod was obviously going to be set out differently because there were no games on the weekend, whatnot. I was going to do an Australian review, then some news, and then quiz as usual, final predictions and whatnot. But this has happened, so I feel like I now have to start with the news. Start with Doc and just seep into everything else and then do the Australian review. I think that's how I have to do it. So let's do that, I think. Where do we start with it? Um, I'm over the moon. It may not seem as much like that because I think a lot happened an hour ago, so I kind of had the chance to digest it a little bit. I now understand that he's playing and this is a thing that's happening, and I can move forth with that information and actually analyze it with a level head rather than just sit there and let my jaw hit the floor and not know what to do with it. So, first things first, this is enormous from a club morale standpoint. The confidence of the group, the togetherness of the group going into an away final where the form hasn't particularly been the best over the last, say, 6 weeks. This is massive because Doc is the heart and soul of the club, quite clearly. Um, that is first things first. No one can question this decision from that standpoint at all. If you do, you've lost your marbles. You're just a hater if you question this from a morale standpoint. Because if that is the key motivation, you make this decision 1,000 times out of 1,000. But then you look at the injury side of it, and that's where the questions start to come in. I personally don't think he's not ready. I don't think he's not ready. I don't think he'd risk himself. This guy is like, how old is he? 31, 30. This guy is not stupid. He's done this 3 times. He'll know his body best. And he'll know when he's ready to come back. And I don't think he'd risk himself for the sake of the team if he didn't know he was ready. As I'm pretty sure he said this like probably 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, that if he was allowed to, he would have played back then. So he's felt ready for weeks. So I have no doubt that this is the right move from that standpoint as well, like a pure injury standpoint. Because as I said, he's not stupid. I don't think he's stupid, and he cares about the club. And I don't think he would um, put his name up for that spot in such an important game without being ready for it. The question for me is the actual football side of it. So, like, not having played for 6 months, what does it do to be thrust into such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Finals like atmosphere. It's finals like atmosphere. So to be thrust into that sort of type of game could be difficult, of course. I'm not expecting him to set the world on fire, but ultimately he's coming in for that, for a player in that sort of 20 to 23 range. And I just don't think a player of Doc's quality, and he's a quality player, is going to perform any worse than a player in that range. In fact, I think he's going to perform a lot better than that. Um, because he's a veteran. He's got that level of experience that you can't just you can't manufacture in a player. He's been around for that long that he's ready. He's ready. He's ready. Maybe I'm convincing myself because he's my favorite player, but he's ready. He's ready. I just don't think I can't see why they would do this if they weren't 100% convinced he's ready. So yeah, he's playing. Um, we'll see how it goes. I've been waffling about this for about 5 minutes, and I actually don't know what I've said. That's the problem. Um, because I'm very emotionally invested in this uh occurrence, if you want to say. The next question with Doc is where does he actually play? That's the next question because he can play everywhere. So for that, you have to look at the last team and sort of dissect it that way. So the players that'll come in, we think for sure, Charlie, Harry, McGovern, Zach Williams, and Doc now. Tom DeConing's got a bit of a question mark as far as I'm aware, but if he comes in, I think it's a straight swap for Pitto. I don't think we're going to play two rucks in Brisbane. So Tom comes in for Pitto. We don't have to look at that. Charlie and Harry come in. We move Brody Kemp back, and then I think Lewis Young is out. I think Matt Owes we know is out. I think Jack Carroll will go. And then two of the bench that is listed there, which is Jackson Binns, Cooper Ward, Orazio, and Corey Durden. Whatever happens there, whatever. Because I think any two of those four, I'm not really batting an eyelid. I want Cooper Ward to stay. I think that's the one of the four that I'd be a bit like, because I think he was the best of those four. Jackson Binns was very good as well, so I'd like him to play, but obviously he can't play everyone. So is what it is. But I think Doc comes in now. Zach Williams will play forward. So that's one you have to account for there. Gov obviously goes back. Brody Kemp swings back. And I think where he fits ends up being that sort of obviously he's not Matthew Cottrell because he doesn't have the same speed or pressure, but he brings other qualities. But I think that sort of role, so that third wingman, half forward flank, I think that's where he'll land. And he played a lot of time there last year. So yeah, I think that's where he'll play. But we'll learn more about that throughout the week. Doc's playing. Doc is playing, ladies and gentlemen. What is the next uh dot point under the news? I've got dot pointed Petrarca commits. Uh Look, after this Doc news, I'm like kind of just my brain is gone. I don't actually have level-headed thoughts in my head, but we can talk about this Petrarca thing, I guess. Um, so during the week, was it during the week? Was it over the weekend? I actually don't know. Because as I said, my head is gone. All information that I've retained over my 23 years on this planet is gone. He committed his future to Melbourne 2 days ago. So the Demons put out a statement with Christian Petrarca. He's committed his future to the Demons, allegedly. I say allegedly because I don't know if I believe it. I don't know if I believe it. I think it's an important statement to make to calm the fears of the fan base. After everything that's happened and all the sort of uncertainty that's happened. But I don't know if I believe that this is what Christian has felt this whole time. Because I don't think clubs like Carlton and Collingwood are putting their hands up. And I don't think that the news is even making it out in the first place if it wasn't floated by Christian or his manager or whoever. So what I suspect has happened, and this is would I say it's the consensus? I've seen a lot of people saying it, but I do firmly agree that what I think has happened is that he wants out, or he wanted out, and through this process where clubs have put their hand up, clubs and in turn Melbourne and Christian have realised that this is way too hard to get done, that it's not going to get done, at least not with Carlton or Collingwood or any of those clubs that Christian was interested in anyway. Because I doubt he'd want to move interstate. Then it's not going to get done. And so in turn, you kind of have to make the decision, like, if it's not going to get done, do I just stick it out a bit longer? And I think that's what he's doing. Because he does love the Melbourne Football Club, let's be honest. Like, he's been there for so long. You don't just fall out of love with a club that quickly. You can be disgruntled with things that have happened. You can want to leave because of things that have happened. The things that have happened to him are inexcusable, in my opinion. Like, if I were in his shoes, I would 100% want to leave. But things happen, and I don't think he's going to be miserable sticking it out longer if he needs to. Ultimately, I think this story is going to come back up in the next, at most in the next year. It's coming up again next year, surely. Unless he comes out next year, has a blinder of a year and decides, nah, maybe I am a demon for life. But we'll see what happens with that. But for now, he's a demon. So we'll see. We'll see. Alex Neil-Bullen, on the other hand, has not committed to the Demons because he wants to go to Adelaide. And I love it. I really love it. What I was going to do before I recorded this pod, and I realize now that I'm 13, 14 minutes into recording that I didn't do this, was I was going to try and like work out how he actually fits in and bring that to the table and sort of dissect that, but I didn't do that. So now I have no clue how he actually fits in. Obviously he plays because he's outstanding. But yeah, okay. So looking purely at their last team sheet because that's the most accessible one. Their midfield four was Rory Laird, Jordan Dawson, Matt Crouch, Jake Saligo going through there as well. That's sort of their four, their core four. Oh, Sam Berry as well goes through there. He will play midfield time because I think his best role is that sort of defensive midfield role. He can also go forward though, kick goals. He's naturally a forward. It's interesting. I don't know who sort of gets forced out of that mix. Is Matt Crouch on the way out? Maybe. How old's Matt Crouch? Tappa, 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 tappa. He's 29. No, surely he's not going to be forced out. He's had a good year. Crouchy. Previously, Crows fans have wanted him out, but I think he's had a good enough year. And I like Sam Berry. I don't hate Sam Berry as that option, that fifth option. So I actually don't know how they deploy Neil. Do they just deploy him as a forward? As a small forward? Who can provide that sort of relief in midfield if needed, but primarily he's a forward. That could also be an option. So having a mix of him, Rankin, Keys, Rochelle with the two talls through the middle. Because I doubt Tex Walker will play as much football next year as he has this year. And even still, he hasn't played a ton this year. But I'd say Fogarty and Thilthorpe is their way forward. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Anyway, he wants to go there, so it's probably going to happen. And we'll see what they do there. The last point is retirees. We've had two, unless one has come out while I've been recording. Let's just quickly refresh the AFL page. No, there's no more retirees. It is the two that happened yesterday. We'll start with Chad Wingard. This one's a sad one, I think, for me. I'm not that sad. That sounded like I was gonna profess my love for Chad Wingard's career. I do like Chad Wingard a lot. Him at Port was some of the most fun I had watching opposition players at that time. He was unreal. Two-time All-Australian. I mean, proof's in the pudding. But yeah, Wingard, yeah. I think I wonder how much the current Hawthorn team contributed to that decision because I'm sure obviously he's had the recovery as well. Maybe that hasn't gone to plan and he hasn't felt like he'll be the same player when he gets back. But also, this Hawthorn team is outstanding. And I don't know how quickly he would have gotten back into that, if at all, into that mix. So, yeah, I'm not surprised, awfully surprised that this decision has come from Chad Wingard. But yeah, all the best to him. And then Jake Kelly also retired. Jake Kelly. Um, I think I'm a little more surprised at this one. Granted, he's again not been outstanding for Essendon. In fact, it's quite the opposite. A lot of Bombers fans have voiced their frustrations about their backline as a whole. I'm not singling out Jake Kelly because their backline as a whole has been pretty bad since about round 12. But yeah, Jake Kelly's gone. I wonder with him because I think he's a bit younger. Like he definitely still had football in the tank. He said he did say he wanted to pursue things outside of football. So if that's the reason, there's nothing else to it. Because he definitely would have still had football in the tank, and he still would have probably been able to offer something to a um a lower club, a building club, with his sort of backline experience. But yeah, best of luck to him as well. Ultimately, with wanting to pursue things outside of football, I don't blame him. So Jake Kelly is also gone. And with that, that's pretty much all the news that I could muster up without just having doc thoughts running through my head. There was other stuff last week. I'm going to be a bit more committed to actually getting more stuff in there because I'm sure there was stuff from went Tuesday, Monday when I recorded last week's pod to Saturday that I could have put in, but I've just put Petrarca and then three things that have happened in the last 2 days. So, but it's all poignant stuff. It's the thing. It's the more newsworthy stuff. Maybe last week's stuff isn't newsworthy anymore, and that's why I didn't put it. But anyway, I'm a waffler. I talk so much. Okay, we're gonna jump back up the run sheet now and do our All Australian review. I was gonna do it first, but Duck News came out, things happened, so I decided let's do news first, get it out the way, get my emotions out the way, and do the All Australian review. So first, I'll read the team because we need to put that on the table before we discuss players and whatnot. Nick Blakey, Jacob Wiedering, Luke Ryan, Dane Zorko, Jerry McGovern, Dan Houston. That's our backline. Errol Goulden, Marcus Bontempelli, Nick Dacos. That's the midfield line. Forward line, Chad Warner, Jeremy Cameron, Isaac Heaney, Jake Waterman, Jesse Hogan, Dylan Moore. The followers were Max Gawn, Patrick Cripps, and Caleb Sarong. And the bench was Lockie Whitfield, Lockie Neal, Adam Treloar, and Zach Butters. Now that that's out of the way, let's discuss a few key points that I think need to be brought up. Which is most important first is the question. Let's start with the backline conversation. So during the week, the night after it was announced, Kane Corn said on radio that the hardest decision in this team was Wiedering or Andrews. And Brisbane put out an article. This is besides the conversation I'm going to have. Brisbane put out an article about it, Harris Andrews and why he should have made it over Wiedering and McGovern and Luke Ryan. And I just thought it was so weird for a club to do that. But nonetheless, I think Wiedering and Andrews should have both made it. And I'm very confused about the rhetoric that it was Wiedering or Andrews. I love Mitch McGovern. I do. I think he had a really good year. But I've said this week, was it actually as good as either of the other two. Like, really. And maybe it just comes from a place of me not watching as much of West Coast as I do Brisbane and Carlton, obviously. Especially Carlton. But I just don't know if he's been as good as Wiedering or Andrews. That's just my opinion, though. That's why I had the two of them and not Jeremy McGovern. I think they're the three clear best key defenders. But I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad Weeder's made it over Andrews if that was the conversation that had to be had. Because I think Jacob Weitering's been the clear best key defender. And if he had missed again, as I said last week, I would have been ropeable. Um, the only other solution I can think of, and obviously it's different. I'm not really arguing this because I also had Luke Ryan. But the only other solution I can think of is to have all three over Luke Ryan and have the three running halfbacks and the three key defenders, putting Andrews in a pocket, putting McGovern in a pocket. Because they were all very deserving at the end of the day. So that's just all very interesting to me. I think in the end they made the right decision if it was Wiedering or Andrews and that's it, non-negotiable. Like McGovern was non-negotiable. But I still think Harris Andrews was a bit stiff on the McGovern end of things. So yeah, it's interesting. Um, the next important topic of the debate was the Zach Merritt one. Because Zach Merritt did not make this team, and I thought he was a absolute lock. An absolute lock. So the inside midfielders who did make the team were Zach Butters, Lockie Neal, I'm reading up. Lockie Neal, Adam Treloar, Sarong, Cripps, Bont, Dacos, Heaney, and Warner. That's 9 inside midfielders, and Zach Merritt's not one of them. And that was very confusing to me. And I think Abby Holmes explained this on Footy Talk. And the way she explained it was that compared to obviously the main point when you talk about these things is, well, who are you taking out? And I understand that completely. I'm taking out Zach Butters or Adam Treloar for Zach Merritt. But the way she explained it with Merritt was that I think Zaharakis said that he's kind of been a victim of the team's form. That's the way he justified it. I'm sure he would have had Merritt as well. But Abby also said that the consistency across the year from those other midfielders was a little bit better than Zach's. But I also think he was very good in those losses in the back end of the year. And the way he played in the front half of the year was better than probably 4 of these players. And you could also argue the same for Lockie Neal the other way as well. That he was a bit poorer in that first half of the year, and then he really hit the ground running in the second half of the year when Brisbane were up and about. So is that a recency thing then, where they've looked at Brisbane and gone, well, they've been really good the last few weeks, and Lockie Neal is in their sort of realm right now? Lots of waffling. The point is, I think Zach Merritt should be in this team, and he's very stiff, ahead of Butters or Treloar for me. That is not discrediting the season that Butters or Treloar have had, though, because I think they're both, again, outstanding. You could have 15 inside mids in this team. Like, there have been so many good midfielders this year. So they're all well deserving, but Zach, so stiff. Who's my next stop point? Tristan Xerri is my next stop point. Again, I love Max Gawn. I do. I think he's been very good this year. I think people are getting a bit harsh on Gawn because of this selection, saying that anything as far as he's not been good this year, which is just wrong. But again, like, he's had that injury run, and after that, he's probably not been as good as someone like a Xerri, who I think should have been the Australian ruckman from the 44 that were named. So that's at least half a season almost that he's not been as good as Xerri. And I think Xerri's first half was still very good, albeit maybe not as good as Gawn early in the year. And I think he did enough to be named with what he did in a side that is not that much poorer, because I don't think Melbourne were that good this year anyway, but it's a pretty poor football team overall. And Jerry looked outstanding in that team. Not as cut up about that one as I am the merit decision or um the defensive issues. Um, but I think I still would have picked Jerry. So that's one to talk about again. And the only other one that I would want to talk about, and this one it probably has the most emotional investment for me, is that Charlie Curnow missed. Um, and like I understand some of the justification for it in terms of, well, you can't leave out Jesse Hogan. Jeremy Cameron. Jeremy Cameron is the interesting one for me in hindsight because he did storm in front in the very last game. So until then, Charlie Curnow probably trumps him in most stats. And Jeremy gets the nod. Granted, I did have Jeremy over Jake Waterman, who again, I think all three of them trump Jake Waterman statistically. But then do you award Waterman's entire season for West Coast from the perspective of how he's done it, some of the goals that he's kicked, the slack that he's picked up without Oscar Allen? It's a very different season to judge, and based on that, he does deserve his nod for sure. But going back to Charlie Curnow, led the Coleman for, I want to say 20 weeks, um, gets injured and suddenly he falls out when he was probably just purely looking at the Coleman and a lot of statistical data was probably the best key forward until that point alongside Jesse Hogan. It's interesting. I do understand rewarding Jake Waterman for what he's done for sure, because Charlie will have more of these. I have no doubt he's going to hit the ground running again next year. Jeremy Cameron might still have more, although he also made it. But yeah, I don't know. I thought Charlie was hard done by, and maybe that's just the bias talking. But I'd love to hear what the general consensus is on that because I haven't really read too many comments about that. But I feel like most people can agree that Charlie was probably the best or one of the two best key forwards for 85% of the year. So for him to fall out the way he did when he really didn't have the ability to do anything about it with the injury is interesting to me. And I think he only had like one or two off games as well. I think the um the talk that he was falling off or that he was not contributing in the way he needed to was limited to a very smaller sample size of games. I think that happened for like two games and people were up in arms. When prior to I reckon round 18, he was still kicking 2-3 goals a week. He was doing his job. But yeah, I feel like I've just waffled again about Charlie. This is a very waffly pod. I apologize. But yeah, that's the All Australian review, perhaps. Let's move on. All right, finals. We're getting into the grand final spirit. So we've got this quiz. I think we'll do a few finals quizzes over the next 5 or so weeks to gear us up for grand final day. This one is AFL grand final goal kickers 2010 to 2020. Every single one by the looks, which is great. I'm going to miss a lot of them. There are 179. Let's just do it. 15 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go. Do we start from the top? I feel like we start from the top. 2010 Collingwood, 2010 St Kilda. Milne. Rewalt. Good thing is a lot of these will overlap. Like I've got Jacks down here now. Yeah. Goddard. Collingwood. Dane Swan. Kicked one. In the replay. Pendlebury. Would have kicked one. No. I should go forwards. I really should knock out forwards first. Cloak. Davis. Lee Brown. Shout out. That was 2011, that one. Oh boy, this is kind of hurting my brain. I can't lie. 2010 replay Collingwood. There were 5 twos. Tarkin the Lockyer. I don't know. There were 5 twos in the 2010 Collingwood replay, and I can't even think of one of them. Let's go more recent memory. I feel like that'll be easier to knock out. 2020, Ablett. Didn't kick one in 2020. No, he injured his shoulder and he did not a lot. Joel Selwood. Oh, he'll be way back. Uh, Hawkins. Cameron. Um, Menegola. Did he kick one? He kicked two. That's crazy. Um, Martin. Did Basher Hooley ever kick a grand final goal? He did. Cochin. Castagna. Butler. Uh, Higgins. McIntosh. We're going all over the place here, but I don't really care. 2017 Adelaide. Tex Walker. Charlie Cameron, we've already got. Betts. Sloan. 2017 Richmond is bugging me a little bit. Tom Lynch would have kicked a couple of later ones. Let's go a bit further back. Bulldogs Sydney. Stringer. Kennedy goes all over the place because there's two of them. But I was thinking Sydney Kennedy. Goods. Um, Bulldogs. Liam Picken. Tom Boyd. Tory Dixon. Um, Toby McLean. 2016 Kennedy. There's a lot going on there. Ryan O'Keefe in 2012. Didn't kick one on grand final, they say. You want a Norm Smith. Just purely off good footy. Good creative footy. Buddy Franklin would be like, yeah, all over the joint. Roughhead. Oh, there's so many Hawthorn players that are popping into my head now. Rioli, Gunston, Roost, Langford, Will Langford. At 2015, Will Langford was just in that game. 2013 Freo, Pav, Ballantyne, Olive Ball, thank you. Ballantyne didn't kick one in the granny. Unlucky. Sandilands kick one. My whole bloody laptop's rocking right now. Walters, yeah, those ones could be absolutely anyone. I have no clue. Fife, no. Did Mundy kick one? No. We're not going to hang ourselves up. 2015 West Coast, Kennedy. Wait, what? Oh, wait. Josh. Josh. I'm lost. 2018. Oh, I got him in 2018. He didn't kick one in 2015. Of course. Jack Darling. That took me way too long to compute. Liam Ryan? No. Dom Sheed. 2018 West Coast. Josh Hill and Brad Hill are both on there. Stephen Hill might also be on there somewhere. No, he's not. Oh, 73 out of 179. I'm literally missing 106 of these boys. I'm missing everyone from the Collingwood 2010 replay except for Dane Swan. Did Nick Maxwell kick one? Who plays for Collingwood? Or played for Collingwood even? Dane Swan. That's it. Daisy Thomas. That's a player. Um, Jeez. Malcheski. I don't think like famous grand final goals in each one. And that's how you sort of knock off a few. Got Cyril 2016. We got Tom Boyd. I'm doing the famous goals in my head. Boyd's get to go. 2017. Any famous ones? 2018. We got Tom Sheed. Oh, 2018. There's so many Collingwood players there. Steve O kicked one. Barco kicked one. Um, Brody Myercheck there back then. He was. 2018 Collingwood goals. Degoe 3, Steve 2, Myercheck 1, Varco 1. Who else is playing as a key for them? Mason Cox might have kicked one in that game. Yeah, 2. There you go. 2019 Richmond against the Giants. Oh, Pickett. There you go. That's a famous goal. Marlon Pickett. Um, Lambert. Yeah, he's all over the shop. Um, oh, Josh Caddy might have kicked one. Yeah, 2017. 2020. Any famous ones there? I'm missing a 2 for Richmond. I'm missing a lot of Geelong players as well. Brandon Parfitt. No. Guthrie. Yeah. Got Tomahawk. Brian Myers. Was he playing back then? He was. Who are their small forwards? Like their actual, like proper natural small forwards back then on either side of Tom Hawkins. I feel like there's like a really obvious player here that I'm missing. Giants 2019. Did Callum Ward kick one? No. Did Toby Green kick one? No. Who was their full forward? Oh, it was Jeremy Cameron. I'm an idiot. Who was their other tall forward back then? I don't know. Canelio maybe. Um, wow. Literally could be anyone. They got smacked. I don't remember who kicked their goals. Um, 89 of 179 is not good. Do we have like an average score or something up here that I can like go off to know that I've done okay? 2012 Sydney. Jared McAvey. Did he kick any goals? He did. Kicked 2 in that grand final. Good. Jude Bolton. Yes. Who played for Sydney? Who was their tall forward in 2012? That feels obvious to me, and I can't even like think. I've got players up here like last week. Did Sam Mitchell ever kick grand final goal? Hodge, Lewis. Oh, Jordan Lewis never kicked one. Um, did I put Joel Selwood? I did. Did I put Sean Burgoyne? Shawnee Burgoyne. Good. Done Betts, done Tom Boyd. Nicky Winmar won't be on here. I think that's the all the players up here who kicked the goal. 2010 Collingwood is bugging me because there are so many players there. I've only got Swanee and Daisy. The replay, that is. So Cloak didn't kick any the next week. Neither did Leon Davis. Did Harry O'Brien slash Heredia Lumumba kick? Yeah, he did twice. He kicked 2 goals from the back line 2 weeks in a row. Was Lumumba even playing back in those games? That's impressive. Um, who plays for Collingwood and kick goals in those games? Did Tende Mzungu kick goals for free? Oh, I was Freo players popping in my head. Ryan Crowley. No. Um, this sucks. I want to hit 100, and then I might actually just give up after 100. I might actually just give up after 100. I can't lie. Mitchell. Tommy Mitchell. No. Ben McGlynn. Oh, yes, that's great. One more, and then I'm actually giving up. Dan Hanbury. Done. See you later. Giving up 100 out of 179. Let's read every player that I missed and cry. Jared Blair, I don't blame myself. Alan Didak, that's awful. Darren Jolly, yeah. Brent McCaffer, yeah, sure. Sam Gilbert, Lenny Hayes he won Norm. He won Norm in that game. He was the Norm. I should have done Norm Smith medalist, and I guarantee I've missed a couple. Oh, I've seen some bad ones. Let's keep reading. Kazitsky, Adam Schneider. The Collingwood players I missed in the replay were Dawes, Dyack, McCaffer, Sidebottom, Wellingham, Goldsack, Ben Johnson, and Darren Jolly. A couple of bad ones in there. Nick Del Santo, Sam Gilbert again, Lenny Hayes again, Cozzy again. 2011, Cracker, Sidebottom, Johnson, Wellingham, Steve Johnson, Jimmy Bartel, Mitch Duncan, Cameron Ling, and Matthew Stokes. So they're bad. Mitch Duncan, I don't blame myself for not remembering. Although I could have gotten him later, to be fair. 2012, David Hale, Xavier Ellis, Isaac Smith, Kier Isaac Smith, I should have gotten. Oh, and no, he won all in 2022. That wasn't on here. Kieran Jack, Mitch Morton, Sam Reed, and LRT. Isaac Smith again in 2013. Chris Main and Daniel Pearce were the two Freo players I missed. Kieran Jack, Kurt Tippett is the tall forward I was thinking. I mean, Sam Reed in 2012, but Kurt Tippett was Sydney's tall, like deep tall for a long time. Um, David Hale, Paul Puopolo is always that's a bad one as well. Matt Suckling, Isaac Smith again, knocked him off like 4 points. Grant Birchall, Ben McAvoy, Ryan Showmakers, Matt Suckling again. 2015, Jeremy McGovern, Mark Hutchings, that's a weird one. Mark Lacroix, Luke Shuey, Elliot Yo. I could have gotten all those, really, apart from Hutchings. 2016, Georgie Hewitt, Luke Parker, Gary Rowan, Nick Smith, Zane Cordy, and Clay Smith for the Dogs. 2017, Brad Crouch, Hugh Greenwood. Jack Graham kicked the most goals in the 2017 grand final. That's interesting. I didn't know that happened. Jacob Townsend, Sean Grigg, and Dion Prestia. Jamie Cripps, Mark Hutchings again, Luke Shuey, Nathan Vardy, Elliot Yo, Taylor Adams, Will Hoskin Elliott. 2019, Ivan Soldo, Harry Himmelberg, Jacob Hopper, and 2020, Prestia, Dangerfield. Yep. And Mitch Duncan again. I missed some names. Jesus. I'm glad to be done with that. Let's stop that screen recording and head back to the main screen. Head back to my run sheet, actually, and we will boot this pod home. All right, finals. These are the 4 games. Oh, boy. It's so hard to predict. It's so hard to predict. I'm going to go fixture order. So I'm going to start with Port and Geelong, which is probably the hardest game to predict, in my opinion. It's the one I'm least decided on of the 4. Port have been more convincing for sure over the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks maybe. Geelong have lost games to St Kilda. They lost to the Bulldogs, where Port beat the Bulldogs comfortably. I reckon there might have been one more loss in there for them. That wasn't too ideal. So purely based off that, you have to give Port the confidence going into this game that they'll be able to get the job done. Just purely on form. I think their midfield is also far and away better than Geelong's, and I think they'll win comfortably out of the middle. I don't know if that wins them the game in this scenario, but Rosie, Butters, Horn, Francis, Wines, and Drew, when the 5 of them are on, unreal. So I think they'll win comfortably out of the middle there. There's something about Geelong and finals like atmosphere, though, regardless of where it is. And there's also an air of uncertainty about Port as well for me, given the straight sets exit last year. It's just this game's going to be very close, I think, whether we like it or not, whether we think it is or not. Something's pushing me the Geelong way. Something's pushing me this way. I'm going to tip Port Adelaide. Because I think it's the wiser pick. And I do think they're the better team. But if Geelong win this game of football by any amount, do not be shocked. Do not be shocked. Because I think Geelong might be capable of more than Port. But on form, they've not shown that. entirely. So I'm going to go Port Adelaide. Next game of the week, Bulldogs and Hawthorn. Oh, wow. This will be game of the week for sure. Probably the two most exciting teams in it. Maybe not the two best, although I have said every week so far that I think the Dogs are my favourite to win it all. Playing their best footy, I think again, it's the kicking. Just get the kicking right, and they're actually going to be unstoppable. Having said that, Hawthorn are a massive shot at this. I don't disagree with anyone thinking that Hawthorn can really shake things up and go all the way here, but I think they're going to fall at the first hurdle. I'm sticking with my um staunch backing of the Dogs. I think they're arguably the best team in this. They just need to kick straight. If they don't kick straight against the Hawks, they're done. They're done. They're not winning this game if they don't kick straight because the Hawks are one of those teams that will punish them. But I'm going to tip the Dogs. I'm going to back them into a little bit more finals experience than the Hawks. I'm going to back them in to keep a steady head and get the job done. Moving on, Sydney and the Giants. You would think this is the hardest game to tip, but I'm pretty certain that the Swans are going to win this. And I'm also pretty certain that they're going to win it comfortably. I don't know if comfortably means just a good margin or if it means a lot. They could win this by a lot of points. This could be a 10-goal win. Why do I think this? The Giants for me are still a little bit like they're a very good football team. At their best, they could win the flag at their best, really. Any of these teams could win the flag at their best. I don't know why I even cite that. But the Giants are very good. But they're still a little bit. I mean, even as late as last week against the Dogs, they've shown those little lapses, and I don't know if they're as capable as some of the teams here. Sydney, for me, however, have had their slump. The first half of the year, I thought they were easily the best team in it. Obviously, I think everyone with two eyes and a brain thought that. They had their slump, and I now think they are firmly out of it. They've showed, for me, a lot more cohesion. They're a lot more like the Sydney in that first half of the year compared to the Sydney in that 6 week block. Heaney will come back in, McCartan will come back in, they'll be fit and firing. I think this Sydney team is very good. And they're back to what we sort of expected from them. If this is a closer game and there are sort of those signs that Sydney maybe aren't back to what we thought they'd be, it's an interesting one. I think they're going to romp the Giants here. I think they're going to roll through them. Just my opinion, though. Brisbane and Carlton is the last game of the week of the week. Anyone that knows me knows I don't tip against Carlton. Like just pure AFL tips. I don't tip against this ever. This is very different. We're a podcast trying to remain it completely impartial, trying to bring a little bit of objectivity to this. Here are the objective facts of this game. Carlton regained Charlie Kerner and Harry Mackay, two Coleman medalists. Mitch McGovern, a very good defender. Zach Williams, who has the ability to impact games massively. And Sam Docherty, one of the most experienced players in the competition. Again, an outstanding player who has the ability to impact games, as we've seen. Especially in finals like atmosphere. He did that last year. I think Carlton, I'm tipping Carlton. Here's my thing with Brisbane is they're a very good football team, and I had them to win the flag as early as late as 3 weeks ago. But as they fell out of that top four, something just seemed off with them. And then you look back to Essendon last week, and it just seemed off. It just seemed off to me. Brisbane are such an interesting. They could easily come out and roll through us. They're that kind of team. Their best is outstanding, obviously. It's why they're there. That's why they recovered from the point they were at the start of the year to now. And it's why I backed them for a lot of that middle portion of the season to do so. And I had them winning the flag for a lot of that middle portion of the year. But last week has just put a bit of doubt into my mind as to whether that end product is there, whether that four-quarter performance is there. And granted, the same sort of concerns lie with us. Do we have a four-quarter effort in us to beat Brisbane? I just think they would have rolled over Essendon a little more comfortably. And I wasn't inspired by the way that game ended. And it's put the little inkling in my mind with all the players coming back that this Carlton team has something about it. Not necessarily to go all the way, but to just show that we're still here. And we've beaten Brisbane this year up there. And that's something else. Some more confidence that we can take in with the returns. I think on paper the teams are very similar. I actually had this. Did I have this as my grand final at the start of the year? I did. I had this as my grand final. I'm tipping Carlton. I think we're going to do it. Don't really care, to be honest, how this comes off. But I think more so than ever, this is one of those games where I feel like I'm playing. And it's like, if I don't go in thinking that we're going to win, what's the point? To Carlton it is. So with that, we're done for episode 4. And next week, we're going to be talking about 4, hopefully, outstanding finals. I think they're all going to be very good games of football. But until then, I think it's time for me to sign off. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment suggestions, rating on Spotify, all the stuff I explain every week. Follow at Footy Stuff Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and follow my personal TikTok. All the links are in the description. All those there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.